What's going on, guys? It's Thomas and welcome to the channel. If you're new, this video I'm going through a real life case study. It's been a minute since I've posted anything like this, so I'm quite excited. So there's nothing groundbreaking, there's nothing insane, there's nothing super impressive, but I want to show you how, if you're starting out, if you're quite new to affiliate marketing, or if you're struggling to get something going, I want to show you some tips and maybe strategies and advice on how to start making as much as 3K a day. So you can see here, obviously not all profit, I wish, but we're just about $1,000 a day in profit if we were to average out on this one campaign. So let's dive straight into it. We have in total $21,000 in revenue. Okay, this is revenue. I'll open it up a little bit so you can see what these are. Not that it really matters. We spent $14,000. Okay, so average over the 7 days, which was the 19th to the 25th of July. $14,000, average 2,000. I'm going to go day by day because I want to show you. I'm still running this campaign, by the way. We had a few issues with page restrictions, now sorted, so back up and running and still profiting. Okay, I may update this case study in the next couple of weeks, but I want to show you the exact process here of how you can start implementing the same. Obviously, I'm not going to give the offer away. I'm also not going to give my ads or the page away or the domain, but I am going to walk you through the process that you can repeat for a different offer or for an offer that you find, okay? So let's go day by day. So let's jump to the 19th. I'm going to walk you through this, the steps, and then I'm going to go through the actual what's going on, right? And obviously I probably will repeat myself a little bit, but you're just going to have to make do. I expect this will be a little bit of a long video. I'm going to try not to witter on or go on too many tangents, but you know that's never, never too far away. No promises, right? Anyway, so this is day one. Now, I teach and you preach to my students in Ad Profits and my one-to-one clients that the offer is everything, right? It's the most important part of the puzzle. You can have the best copywriter in the world, the best creative design team in the world, but with a shit offer or a terrible offer, it's not really going to do anything, right? It's going to be money not well spent on that copywriter and that creative, because even the best ads can't make a good offer convert. However, you could have pretty mediocre, even poor ads that crush with an amazing offer. So the offer as an affiliate is really the pinnacle. That is what we are aiming for. So again, I go through testing frameworks that I'm not going to get too much into in this video. But again, we discuss that a lot in Ad Profits in the weekly calls. But, you know, testing budgets and how we can quickly and, you know, cost efficiently test offers without going too deep in the hole. How we can hit an offer, see if it's going to convert or not, move on to the next, right? The idea is we might need to go through 5, 10, 15, 20 offers before we find that absolute winner. And then we can recoup anything that we've spent, right? Again, not always, or sometimes you can hit a good offer straight off the bat. Again, I go through this in more detail inside of Ad Profits with our profit predictor and how we use that to give ourselves the best chance of hitting a home run on day dot, right? And you can see in this scenario, fortunately, we hit that day dot offer, right? This is day one. You can see we didn't spend a lot of money here. We spent $253, which, you know, again, I teach that we start slow. We're not going in 10K a day off on day one. We need to make sure that the offer has legs. This is quite a low ticket offer as well, which I see a lot of people, you know, don't really go towards, which is great for us because it means we can go international. It means we can keep traffic costs down. It also means that we can keep saturation down as well, right? We can go worldwide or thereabouts, right? Now you can see we spent $253 and we made $550 back, okay? Gave us 117% ROI. So day one, great. This is exactly where we want to be. And I'm going to break down how this looks. I'm not going to go into the ad sets because it gives the game away a little bit, but I'm going to break down the, on a Google Doc, the testing process here, right? This is like a TPS, test, prove, scale framework that we follow. I'm also going to dive into some avatar research as well, and how I think that's a real pinnacle that can really help crush an offer. If the offer's got legs, there's some real good ways that we can scale, and I'm going to share that with you as well. Okay, so we've got our day one results. Fantastic. This is exactly what we want. So I see this, and obviously I'm looking, and again, I like to allow 3 days to of testing to get the feel, right? But also, what I like to do, and what makes, potentially gives me a little bit of an edge, is I'm quite an opportunistic media buyer. And I think to be a savage, you do need this trait. You need to have some kind of gut instinct and some kind of risk-taking ability to just roll the dice on a whim. So obviously, sometimes it doesn't pay off, but sometimes it does. So what I did here is that, I saw this. I'm testing multiple ads, which I'm going to break down in the Google Doc later on. But I'm testing multiple creative concepts. I'm also testing multiple avatars, which is, the people that we're talking to within the ad. So right off the bat, to double our money on day one, it's a super good sign. So let's move into day two, which was the 20th of July. Now, bearing in mind, this is Saturday and Sunday, right? We launched on Saturday. That was day one. So I expect when we go into, the weekdays, we are going to see a dip. That's a natural thing to happen. I often see with health offers that the bulk of the best days are Friday to Monday, usually, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, flat a little bit. You could argue Monday and Friday can be flat, but I often see good results Monday and Friday, but our best results Saturday, Sunday, right? Okay, so we move into day two. Now, see how we've increased spend. So we spent $250 there or thereabouts on day one. Well, day two, we triple the budget and then some. So this is what I really do preach that, you can test slow, but slow can be fast. Now, $250 to, $890 is a big move, right? So what do we do? So we can see our testing ABO, which is our main testing campaign, is sitting nicely. It was 117% day one. That was the only campaign that we had. Day two, I take a winning ad. Well, in fact, I take 3 winning ads. And again, they're not winning ads because they've only been running day one and they don't have a lot of spend or data. But there are potential winning ads. They're the ads that have, maybe 3 or 4 sales, really good ROAS, really good target CPA. They check all our benchmarks and KPIs, which again, we set before we even go live. So, I'm going to start pushing. This is what I was referring to when I was saying about having that gut instinct and opportunistic. I see one ad and it's maybe got 4 sales within really good target CPA, really good ROAS. I'm going to roll the dice and see if I can start proving this ad. So I've tested, or I've started testing day one. Again, if I was solely methodical and logical, I would be waiting for that data. No, I have to wait 3 days. I have to wait for X amount of spend. I'm not that media buyer. I try and keep a little bit of methodology, to prevent me from being just completely chaotic. But I do have a part of me that is just complete chaos, where I'll just take an ad and I'll start trying to prove and scale pretty quick because I'm rolling the dice. I want to capitalize on performance, right? So what I'm doing is I'm taking this one ad, this banana quads, which is a creative tag that we have, and I'm nuking it. And this is a scaling strategy that we have. So in this scenario, we then push this campaign to $360 spent on that creative, on that one creative ID, that one existing post ID, as well as what it's running inside of the testing campaign. So this is a way of us proving this ad, right? Can it hold more spend? And in this scenario, it does. It takes another $360 spend, which is a really good sign. Now, really good profit as well. So in total, we spend $890. We bank, $1,850, taking $960 profit. So nearly $1,000 profit day two, which is again a really good sign for a low ticket offer. Now you can see here I have two more nukes for two other creative IDs. The reason here was that they didn't spend is I turned them off. They were going to go live. They took quite a while to get approved. By the time they started delivering, it was like the middle of the day, early afternoon. I decided I wanted to turn off because I didn't want, to have diluted results, right? I wanted to have I was close to a full 24 hours in that first day. So I turned the campaign off with the intention of turning on again the next day. So let's move to the next day, which was the 21st. So this is day 3 moving into Monday. So now our overall is we spent $1,592. So we spent just short of 900 day 2. Now we've, added another $600 of spend. Our testing ABO continues to crush, right? In this one, we pull back a little bit on spend. I think I'm trimming a little bit of the ad sets at this point that I've been running for 2 or 3 days. I'm taking anything that doesn't look too good in here because we have, I can't remember exactly, 10 or 15 ad sets, starting out, and I'm adding to. I'm starting to see what creative concepts are working, what avatars working, and I'm trying to create iterations now. So I'm bringing new tests in, right? I'm bringing brand new tests based off iterations of what I see working. I wonder if this creative concept will work with this avatar. I wonder if I change the hook of this video ad and put it with this ad copy, is that going to work with this avatar, right? Again, I'm going to break it down in a little more detail later in this video. I did warn you it's going to be a long one, but okay. So, day 3, great results again. Very happy. We bank over $1,000 in profit, which is really good. We can see our initial nuke from yesterday actually fell off. Didn't do too well. So I turned this off partway through the day. Could have argued that I could have left it on. I wanted to minimize loss. I wanted to maximize profit, right? So I turned it off. I brought in another nuke with this other GM110 ID, which didn't do that great. It broke even pretty much, lost $6 again, is what it is. But our Inch Quad and our Sins 5, which were two other creative IDs, which I'd launched yesterday, turned off early, did really well, right? This one did 95% ROI, so it spent $690, made back $1,350, giving us a $658 profit. And then obviously this one did, equally as well, 56%, not quite as well, but I'm happy with that. And then the testing ABO just continued to crush, right? So insane results. Now, going into day 22, things slowed down. And I half expected it because this is now going into Tuesday, but I want to try and keep, I want to try and keep profit coming in. So if we roll into Tuesday, day 4, all right, overall, not as great. Now, I increased spend. I added another $600 in spend. And a lot of that was in the, I think in the testing ABO here, which you can see now spent $773 and did maintain a healthy ROI, which I was quite happy with. The Banana Quad nuke, I tried bringing back, and again, it flopped. So I turned it off the day before. It had a really good day 1. Day 2, it didn't get off to a good start, so I turned off. Day 3, which is this specific scaling campaign, broke even, right? So I think potentially turned most of the stuff off here partway through the day, but it spent, just over $400. So I at least let it run a little bit, right? Now this nuke down here, which did, extremely well the day before as well, continued to do great with a 90 or 89% ROI, which did great. And then obviously we had a few other campaigns running. But the testing ABO again had the bulk of the spend. So overall, look, I'm still happy. Like this, we're still in the testing phase here and we're in the proving phase. And I'm starting to see if I can push buttons to scale, right? That's what I'm doing here is I'm starting to sort of edge. How far can I push this with what I've got currently before it falls apart? Now, I'm also bearing in mind that it's Tuesday and I expect results. Probably if I go through all of my data in the health space, I would say Tuesdays and Wednesdays are probably the worst days for me. So like to see profit on a Tuesday, I'm still happy with. And look, listen, if I'm going to put 2K in and make $790 or $800 profit off a new campaign with a new offer, I'm happy with that, right? I'm happy, on the worst day of the week or one of the worst days of the week. So let's then move to day 5, which is this 26th? So yeah, 23rd of July, which is the Wednesday. And again, so another day of the week that I'm expecting, come see, come sa, right? Is it going to do well? Is it not? Our testing campaign doesn't do as great. And now I'm pushing now. I'm testing more things. Like I've got a lot of data at this point, right? We're running a low ticket offer. So it's, we've got a decent amount of data to be able to determine what's working, what's not, what concepts are good. Let's bring iterations in. Let's also bring completely new concepts and completely new avatars in to really start going with, what's working. How can we push this further? Because we never want to stop testing. People go wrong a lot where they just make do with one winning ad and then they just, leave it. Try and scale that one winning ad as far as they can, which is great. But then when that one winning ad stops working, they have nothing to fall back on. They have no backup. And for me, I don't like that. In fact, I only like scaling with multiple ads. I want to have ads that are proven, that have at least 10 conversions, that at least have ideally 80% ROAS. Because I know if I have that much of a margin, when I scale and my ROAS cuts in half, which it quite often can, I'm still operating at 40% and I still have healthy margin, right? So those are the things I'm looking for. And obviously I'm looking at other metrics as well, but I want to try and find ideally 3 to 5 of those ads that I can scale. And you can see that's what I started to do here. This scale CBO was me then moving into a CBO and sort of compiling my 3 or 4 best ads at this point. And again, at this point, we're probably, I didn't count up, but I would say, I'm not going to bother running 19th to the 23rd. We're definitely over 100 conversions at this point. So I do have, several ads that all have over 10 conversions. Some have way over 10 conversions. So at this point, I'm, moving into scale CBO. And again, this is another scaling tactic that we have. Obviously, it's a CBO. We have bigger budgets. We implement manual bids with a few other little strategies that we operate on. Okay, so we're, although overall it's $400 in profit, and we've pulled back in spend a little bit, we still have pockets of profit. And in complete honesty, there isn't a single campaign here that's losing money, which is great. We just didn't capitalize on the stuff that was working, right? And obviously the testing ABO, which took most of the spend, we had new tests in there, right? I wasn't expecting it to crush. I never expect the testing campaign to crush. Like, obviously, I'm going to keep things that are working in there running, but ultimately, that campaign is to test and see what's working, right? And again, this is a different strategy from what I've spoken about on the, on the channel before. I still like that big budget and putting everything into one campaign. This, for me, if I'm feeling like this offer I want more control over, and I want to start a little bit more with isolation and being able to test with, ABO and, maybe one concept per ad set where I can isolate that ad set or that concept and be able to sort of really give a full test without relying on Facebook choosing one winner. This is the way I'd steer. I'd also recommend beginners or people that are struggling to hit 1K a day or the first few K a day in a campaign. This is the sort of strategy that I'd go to. If you're singing and already scaling and you know, advanced, I'd be going, you know, big budget CBOs, bid caps, day parting. I'd go straight off the bat. But when I haven't got that data already, you know, I want to start somewhere. And you can see, like, even though we started with $250, you know, it doesn't take long to sort of get to a 10x kind of budget. And I think we see that on the 24th or 25th. So let's move to the 24th, which is now going into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So day 6 on the 24th. And we push now, right? So now we're just tapping at 3K a day. Now look, the ROI is not brilliant, but I don't expect it to be brilliant. Again, we have multiple tests going on, and we also have multiple scaling campaigns that you can see, right? We have our Scale CBO CPR. We have our Scale CBO here, which took a small loss. We have our Scale ABO, okay, down here. Again, these are all different ways that we're scaling. We have our testing ABO, which has our tests going on. We have our nukes, okay, which were hit and miss. But in total, we made over $1,000 profit, $1,200 profit, which is great. It's fantastic, right? Again, we're still early in this campaign. This is still a new offer that we're testing. We're gathering data. We're finding what concepts work, what avatars are working, what ads are working, what are our winning ads, and then we can start pushing, right? So then if we dive into the day 7, which is the 25th, we push again, right? So we double the budget. Not quite double, but you know, we add another 2K or whatever it is. We're at $4,700 in spend now, and we maintain that 40-ish% ROI, which is fantastic because now we do 2K profit, which is really good, right? So we do $6,800 in revenue, you know, $2,100 just short of in profit, and we can see, you know, the testing ABO is still going, but it's low spend. I'm trimming stuff now. What's not working, I'm trimming, I'm turning off. I had a lot of ad sets going on here because we were running with like sort of micro budgets, just testing the water, finding what's working. Then we start proving them, and then we start scaling. This is that TPS framework that I mentioned at the start. We test, we prove, and then we scale, right? Because, and I'll break this down, so I won't go into it right now, but we'll go to it in a second. Look, the scaling campaigns are crushing now because we've compiled our winning ads, and we're putting into our scaling campaigns. And when we break down scaling, ultimately, what we're doing is we're spending more money. So how do we scale? Well, we spend more money. And ideally, we spend more money on what's working. Now, I still think we need a portion of the budget for testing because we don't want to be caught with our pants down. We don't want to be caught with, you know, no backup ads or no ads coming up that we can bring and replace and, you know, renew or refresh our winning ads. But the bulk of our budget needs to go into scaling, right, on what's working. And that's what you can see here. So again, really good day. This is a campaign that is still ongoing right now. We did have issues with the page. We got a restricted page, but then appealed it, came back. So we're singing again. But it really does show that this was a brand new offer, brand new campaign, no idea what was going to work with it, if the offer was going to work at all. And it just shows, like, this is doable for anyone. Like, most of us, I know not everyone, but I think most of us can start with a couple $100 a day budget, right? $100 a day, whatever it is. And even if you started with a $100 a day budget, but then you grew it to, you know, 20x within a week, that's a 2K a day budget. So from someone who, you know, starts with $100 a day to be able to be spending $2,000 a day within 7 days, it's pretty impressive, right? So I think anyone can do this. What you need is you need the right offer. You also need a framework, in my opinion. You need some kind of structure to be able to follow. And again, I'm going to lay it out for you in a second, but also, again, not to be too pluggy, but there is a link down below if you want to talk about joining Ad Profits Academy. We are vetting people. We're trying to keep it quite selective. You can't just join, or you can, but you have to pay through the nose for it. But you know, if you want to talk about joining Ad Profits Academy, where we have a weekly call, Q&A, community where you can ask me questions at any hour of the day, course content, case studies, etc., then you can drop me a message on Instagram. My Instagram link is down below, and I'll get back to you there and see if it's a good fit or not, and we can discuss whether whether you're at the right place now to join. I also have a link down below for those who are maybe a little bit more advanced, who want more one-on-one support, who want my private WhatsApp number and want to have like one-on-one calls. There's a link to book a call. Again, don't really want to plug too much, but there we go. Okay, so let's actually break this down. Okay, so 3K a day affiliate case study. I know it's not profit, but revenue around 21K in the 7 days, right? So step one, what do we do? Okay, so step one, we find an offer. Okay, we find an offer. The most important step, right? Really, really important that we find an offer. So where do we go for our offers? Well, I mean, it depends. For me, I like the health space. I also like these VSL offers. So ClickBank is a big one for me. BuyGoods is another one. MaxWeb is another. And Digistore is probably another one that I would go to, right? Now, I do a lot of offers private. I do a lot of exclusive offers. So I'm saying, you know, as starting out, these are the networks that I would check out if I'm interested in health offers with VSLs, right? This could be supplements, it could be digital. There are other offers outside of health on these networks, but the same framework can be applied to lead gen, pay-per-call, can be applied to e-com, can be applied to local lead gen. It doesn't matter, right? The same thing applies. You know, the foundations are the same. We test a variety of ads. You know, we find a good offer first, we test a variety of ads, and we scale what works. And that boiled down is as simple as it is. Obviously, it becomes a little bit more difficult, you know, but often people make it more complicated. The slurp of water. Keep going. Okay, so, you know, we find an offer. And again, how we find offers, I'm not going to go into too much depth of it because it's unfair on, you know, the people that are in Ad Profits, but we use, you know, profit predictors or a profit predictor to sort of give ourselves the best chance of success. And this is basically a calculator that we can run some numbers through. We have, you know, obviously lists of recommended offers, and we can see what's working, and we can have a spy to see what's going on, etc., etc. But ultimately, we want to know the AOV of an offer, obviously, so we can work out our payout, like how much can we get paid, or how much room is there to get paid, right? We also want to know the CVR as well. That's really important. AOV and conversion rate are probably the most important metrics for an offer, because if you've got, you know, $100 payout and a conversion rate of 1%, then you can work out, is this going to be possible, right? Where can I run these ads? Is it US only? Because if it's US only, you know, that might not work. The payout might be too low and the conversion rate might be too low, because you've got to think a US only campaign, CPMs, you know, depending on the niche, depending on the competition, the saturation, depending on a lot of things, but the CPMs could be $60 or $70 plus, sometimes $100 plus, right? Well, unless you've got click-through rates through the roof, which I also don't recommend, it's going to be difficult to make that work, right? I'm not saying it can't be done. I think it 100% can be done, but it might be a little bit more difficult. There might be a little bit more testing needed to be done. You might need to get really down and dirty with your avatars, with your creatives, with your messaging, right? Now, as a beginner, that might not be the best way to do things. You know, I'm not saying it can't be done. It definitely can be done. I'm just saying it takes a little bit more work and also a little bit more budget to make those offers work, right? Now, that same scenario, $100 payout with a 1% conversion rate, but worldwide, well, that completely changes things, because our CPM worldwide is going to be around $10, $15, right? And we're still going to get a big bulk of traffic from the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, right? But we're also going to find geos that we'd never think to target. And it's insane. Like, I'm not going to go into depth, but it's mental what we see. Like some of these geos where are just converting 300% ROAS with good volume, and geos that you'd never think of targeting. It's really mad. But then that offer looks extremely doable in that scenario. $10, $15 CPMs, you're probably paying, with an average CTR of maybe 5%, like a link click-through rate, and a landing page click-through rate of 50%. You may be looking at 15, 20 cents a click, and then obviously, 40, 50 cents to get a visitor to the offer, and that converts at 1% with a $100 payout. It's definitely workable, right? Okay, so with that, let's move to step 3. So we found our offers or shortlisted a few offers. Now we're looking at what we do. Well, for me, I want to start with our avatar research, right? Or customer research, we'll call it. Again, I'm not going to go into too much depth with this. I've actually just posted some new content, a new module inside of Ad Profits Academy with a real deep dive and drill down on how I look at avatars and how the prompt sheets and guide that I use, copy and paste over to just bring out the most specific demographics and avatars, and then how we can craft our ad copy around that. It's insanely productive and extremely effective. And like my campaigns are because of that, right? None of the copy that I have written in the campaign that we went through, and every single campaign that I am actively running right now, has any human copy. It's all AI copy, but it's written in a way that's very human-like because we're able to drill down into the avatar. And it's not just 65-year-old grandma, right? It's going way more in depth. It's what are the emotional triggers that this avatar has? What's their career? What did they used to do? What do they love doing, right? Do they have grandkids, right? What do they do day to day? What are the things that trigger them, that trigger the pain, the emotional pain, right? Those type of things are very, very important, but also we need to sync it with the offer. And again, I'm not going to go into depth on it because it takes away the value that I provide in Ad Profits Academy, but it's insane once you grab the mechanism and the angle and the one big thing from the offer, and then you adapt it to the avatars and the customer markets. Because I'll tell you one thing while we're on the subject, being able to drill into customers or customer avatars is a very, very effective way to scale. Because whilst everyone's going after the 65-year-old grandma, you can open this up to the 48-year-old father of 3, right? And nobody's going after him. Or the 56-year-old nurse, or whatever, right? And again, we're not just talking about demographics, because those are just demographics. But once we drill down and really open up that avatar into everything that I just mentioned before and more, that's how we scale, because those markets are unsaturated. Right? No one's targeting that person in their ad copy and creative, but that market might be full of buyers, right? And again, that's how we get lower CPMs, but higher CVRs, conversion rates. Again, no one talks about it, but it's really important. Okay, so let me, again, I'm not going to go into depth, but avatar research, important, right? Okay. Then step 4, we want to really get deep and dive on our creatives and our ad copy. Again, I'm not going to go into huge amounts of depth here. We have masterclasses inside of Ad Profits Academy with the Creative Masterclass, which is my top creative designer who is just an absolute whiz with AI, Arcads, Creatify, whatever, and CapCut, God knows what else. How he's able to really make engaging and converting creatives by taking hooks and writing scripts and using 11 Labs and the transitions. We have a full hour masterclass on how he does that exactly, and examples of him doing it in real life. Over the shoulder, it's extremely high value content. And then also we have conversion code copy masterclass, which is where we walk through how to really get the best of the copy. But in complete truth, you can do that just by drilling down into the avatar, using ChatGPT or Claude to really drill deep into the avatar can open up the best copy, right? the best ad scripts or video ad scripts, which you can then feed into 11 Labs or wherever, Arcads, and create really good video creative, right? The copy is hard, most of the job done. The visual creative, okay, that's important, but it's often overthought. Like you could just do a text presentation video, maybe just use like a 10-second visual hook, as in like a real visual, and then just go into text presentation where it's just text, the transcript of the script on a blank background, right? Or you could just transcribe, just have a first person view of making a drink. I see that all the time and it works really freaking well. Okay, so again, that's like first person view looking through the eyes of someone. So you're not looking at anyone apart from a pair of hands making a drink. Very, very effective. So the creative does not have to be complicated. Now, outside of that, what I mentioned before is variety. If I can spell it, keyword is variety, right? Because when we have an offer that we think's, gone through our profit predictor and we like what we see, I think we can make this work, then we go through the creative and we make variety. We're not just taking one ad and we're not taking one avatar. I want at least, in an ideal world, 3 to 5. Oh, I don't know what I've done there. 3 to 5 avatars, right? Because I want to have variety. Maybe 3 of these avatars are going to flop, but maybe the other 2 avatars are going to crush and scale, right? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a variety of testing. Now with creative and copy, why does it keep going in? Creative and copy, again, I want variety. So I like to label these as creative concepts, okay? So creative concepts would be quad image, which is a quadrant, right? So like an image split into 4 corners or 4 quads and whatever in those different quads. We go through that again inside the academy. But, that would be one concept, quads, okay? Then I could have a UGC script, which would be concept 2. And then I could have making a drink video with a bit like a more factual voiceover. That would be concept 3. And then, another image of maybe text only. That would be concept 4, right? So I'm going through, I'm having 3 to 5 creative concepts. Now, the avatar, when we go back to the avatars, why does it do that? Each avatar has its own variation of copy, right? So primary text and headline. So each avatar has its own primary text and headline. So in this scenario, we would have 3 to 5 primary texts plus headlines because we'd have 1 for each of the avatars. So if we were testing 3 avatars, we would have a total of 3 primary text, 3 headlines, right? And obviously that primary text and headline would run for that specific avatar. So the way we'd structure the campaign, let's now go ahead and jump down here, but not have this big font. So our ad campaign, I'm terrible at writing as well when I'm trying to concentrate, so apologies, but is test, prove, prive, and scale. And there's nothing new about this, by the way. This has been done for years. Like I've been using a format of this ever since I started. Like very rarely did I go straight into scale unless I had proven winners already, right? Always, there has to be some element of testing, whether it's in ABO or CBO, big budgets, little budgets. You need to test to some degree. You need to have some kind of variety, right? And the way I like to do it is this TPS, test, prove, scale. So what I did inside of the campaign and the case study that we just looked at is I start with ABO campaign, okay? And this is my testing ABO, okay? And inside of this, we have the ad set. So each avatar, so avatar 1, So let's say this is ad set 1, right? Ad set 1, avatar 1 with creative concept 1. Okay? So avatar 1 with creative concept 1. Now, how we go from this without doing that is I like to, and you don't have to do this, you could have one ad per ad set. For me, I like to have a variety. So I would have creative concept 1. Let's say creative concept 1, just to save me having to type all of this out. Let's say creative concept 1 is quad image, right? Quad image. So I would have quad 1, quad 2, and quad 3. Okay? 3 different images. Now, they'd all be a quadrant, but they'd be different things, right? So maybe I'm changing, maybe I've got some vapor rub in one, and I'm changing that to apple cider vinegar or to baking soda or whatever, right? What I'm trying to say is I've got 3 variants, 3 different individual images, all of the same concept. They're all a quad image, but they're just slightly different variants, right? They all have avatar 1 copy, okay? Every single one of them has the same copy, the same headline inside of this ad set, right? Now then, ad set 2 would be avatar 1, but now with creative concept 2, okay? So maybe it's UGC 1, right? And again, then we would have, or UGC script 1, okay? Then we would have UGC script, hook 1, hook 2, and hook 3, right? So then we've got 3 different variations of the creative, right? And so forth, okay? Now, this depends on how many of these you're doing, but I like to have, each avatar has a different creative concept. Now, the argument is, what if this UGC script, do you have the UGC script targeted only to the avatar? And in an ideal world, yes. If you have the resources to create a different script, which you should, AI makes it very easy. Obviously you might need to copy chief it a little bit, but it's very doable. In an ideal world, you have the script of the video suit the avatar, right? If it's UGC, because then it's congruent, right? Now, where I won't suit the script to the avatar is if it's quite a generic, broad script. And like that would be something that's maybe suited more with B-roll. That's more factual, more, in-depth on the mechanism of the offer and the facts behind it, right? Like the studies from Harvard, right? Authority style scripts. Okay, so in that scenario, I wouldn't, right? But I'd keep on bashing this out. So then ad set 3 would be, avatar 1, creative concept 3, whatever that is, right? And then again, 3 variants of the creative with the same avatar copy. And then I'd repeat it for avatar 2, avatar 3, avatar 4, or whatever, however many avatars I'm running. So initially, there's quite a lot of work up front on this, and I'm not denying that there isn't. But if you think you're going to hit a home run every single time with just one ad and no work, then unfortunately, you're probably in the wrong game, right? There is going to be work involved. Obviously, if you're starting out and you're a solo affiliate media buyer, you're just going to have to put the work in. And if you're wanting to make this work, that's just part of the game. Now, those who are already more established and experienced, you may already have teams. VAs can help with this. If you've got creative designers, either in-house or outsourced, they can help with this. So there's ways to sort of streamline this, right? But outside of it, you can just do it yourself as well. AI makes it extremely easy. And there's no reason why you couldn't have all this bashed out within a few hours, right? Depending on how good the prompts and the feedback you're getting from AI is, you might need to go back and forth with it a little bit to brush it up and make it a little bit tighter. But, it shouldn't take too long. Then get it into creative, again, either through your in-house, outsource, or doing it yourself. Again, there's tools out there that make it very easy. Arcads, CapCut, I can use it to a degree. The text presentation is super simple. Making a drink is very simple, right? Anyone can do that. If you've got a kitchen and a smartphone, you can do it. You don't need a GoPro. Obviously, it makes it a lot easier, but you can get your partner or your kid or your friend to just hold the phone over your shoulder so you've got two hands, or you could just do it with one hand, right? So there's no excuse that you can't make your own creative. There's no excuse that you can't do your own avatar research, right? It's all doable. Okay, so that's what I do. Again, I don't want to really, spend loads of time typing all of this out, but we would add ad set free. Again, avatar 1, concept free. Then avatar 2, quad image. Avatar 2, UGC script. Avatar 2, creative concept, whatever free is. Avatar 3, quad image. Avatar 3. So we'd have 9 ad sets if we had free avatars and free creative concepts. In total, we'd have 9 ad sets, right? Now, my initial testing budget is different. If it's an offer that pays out, less than, let's say, $100, in fact, let's say less than $60, $70, then I'm happy. $20 to $30 a day is where I'll probably usually start with these ad sets. So if I had 9 ad sets at $20 a day, that means my total budget's $180, right? Now, if the payout is, let's say, $150, which a lot of NutraSupplements are, which a lot of the offers on ClickBank are, then I'm going to probably steer more towards $40 to $50 a day in ad set budget. And even that can be a little bit low. But I don't want to, what I'm trying not to do here is I'm trying not to go too far out of my testing budget, right? I don't want to burn all that budget in day one. I want to try and spread it over a few days. Again, we go into more depth inside the academy on that. But there's a reason, right? We don't want to be just chucking money, up the wall to test this offer. We want to do it in a structured approach, and ideally with time in market as a real important factor, right? Okay, so let's just put daily budget, offer under, let's say, $70 payout. And there's no real math to that. That's just usually where I'd be. Offer payout $150 with a $40 to $50 a day budget, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm looking for ideally is letting this run, so testing for 3 days, ideally. Now, the big thing here is, for me, I will walk away at this point. I do not want to be tempted to make any emotional decisions. Again, going back to being a media buyer, there's a big part of everyone, of every human, where emotions come into play. And dependent on how much money you've got in the bank, where you are, there's going to be a lot of people that maybe $100 a day is a lot, right? So if you're spending $100 in a day and you're not seeing any results, there may be temptation to turn everything off because there's no results, right? Whereas for me, I just want to step away. I don't want that temptation. I want to let things run. I don't want to be tempted to turn things off too early. Now, again, we go through this in depth inside of the academy about handling your emotions and, setting in stone budgets you're willing to spend and lose to test offers. But again, I don't want to go into too much depth. So I want to test for 3 days, right? And I want to start making decisions. Now, like you saw in the campaign, in the case study, sometimes I will spot opportunity, right? And that opportunity could be, shit, this offer's off to a great start and it's killing it, right? And so I might start moving things faster. Okay, so maybe I won't wait 3 days if I see ad 1, ad 7, ad 11 crushing, right? So I'm gonna aim to wait 3 days to make decisions, but as the gut instinct media buyer who does not swerve away from risk and opportunity, if I spot it, I'm gonna take it, right? But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for ads that, have consistent results. And that's the importance of having time in market and ideally at least 3 days in testing. Have consistent results, right? So I would rather have an ad that has, you know, I was going to type that out as I'm talking. I would rather find an ad. Let's take two scenarios where we have two ads, both have 10 sales, right? Both have good ROAS, but for me, one ad has 8 sales in day 1, no sales day 2, no sales day 3, 2 sales day 4, no sales day 5, right? Same 10 sales, same amount of spend, but the other scenario is the ad gets 3 sales day 1, 2 sales day 2, 1 sale day 1, 2 sales day 3, whatever it is. I've fucked that up. But the the idea is the consistency. There's sales every single day, because that's the reason why we have the prove step, because we want to see the consistency at a higher spend. Because I don't want an ad that has 1 good day and then 5 bad days. I want an ad that has every day it gets sales, or as many days as possible, right? Sometimes it's not going to be every day, but like every day I want to see it perform. I want to see performance there. I want to see consistency. That's more important. I want consistency. I don't want just, you know, blurt out the gate and like 10 sales and then drop off and die. It just performs amazingly well every Saturday, but then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday dies. I want to see performance every single day. Okay, consistency is key for me. Again, you know, I think it's important for every media buyer to find what works for them. And for me, I like consistency, okay? So I want to find ads that have consistent results. Now, what I'm looking for in this test phase, and again, this is really higgledy-piggledy, I apologize, but test phase is I'm looking for, ideally, 5+ sales, okay? 5+ sales gives me confirmation that this ad looks pretty good. Now, obviously, I want to see good ROAS, okay? And the ROAS I want to see can vary, but ideally, I want to be at least 50% plus. Not ideally, but minimum, okay? Ideal is 80% plus. And the reason is I want that margin, because I know when I scale and spend more money on that ad, the margin drops, right? The ROAS is going to drop naturally. It always does. The more money you spend, the ROAS goes down, right? The CPAs go up, okay? That's just naturally what happens. So I want margin to allow that drop, right? Okay, so I also want to, look at my CPA. Okay, that's also important. We can also gauge that from ROAS anyway, but CPA, I want it to be target CPA, okay? So we set our target CPA before we start. How much do we want to pay to get a conversion? Now, that could be at the start, it could always change, right? But at the start, that could be, if we're going to have a $100 payout, maybe our target CPA is $60, right? Again, there's no written rule here. I'm factoring in, $60 would be the max I'm willing to pay. But obviously, if something catches my eye, that's $40, and that's even better, right? But $60, I'm not saying that's my target CPA, but I'm just saying, right? I want to try and leave myself budget. Again, that could be $70. It could be whatever's good for you, right? So let's just say that's there. $70 means if we were to spend $70 and get a $100 payout, we make $30 profit, right? For every sale, which I can't work that out off the top of my head, but it's around 40-45%, which may be not suitable, right? But again, we might take that back down to 60. So if we spend 60 to make 100, we make $40 profit. I can't do the math, but it's around 60% ROAS, give or take. Don't ask me to do math. Not on the spot. But you get a picture, right? We need a target CPA. We need something to aim for. We need a benchmark. Doesn't mean it's always going to be static and written stone, but we need something to aim for, right? So when I'm running these test ads, and let's say we run for 3 days and we find a few ads, and ideally, you know, if we were testing 9 ad sets and each ad set has 3 variants of creative in it, like I put out before, we have a total of 27 ads in our initial campaign. Now let's just say 10 of them, 10 ads fit the above, right? And again, like, is that going to be realistic? Probably not, because 5 sales, 10 ads, that means you've got 50 plus sales. But like, let's just use it because it's easier for me to sort of use a big round number like that. But 10 ads fit the above, they fit the mark, right? So then it's like, and again, by the way, this testing phase doesn't have to be 3 days, could be 5 days, could be 7 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, completely up to you. It depends on budget, it depends on the price, the conversion rate, your CPA. A higher priced offer is naturally going to be a lower conversion rate. So that means you need to get more data or spend more money to get data. On a lower priced offer or a lead gen offer where there's less friction, it means your CPA is probably going to be lower because the conversion rate is going to be higher, right? So then obviously you're going to be able to spend more or spend the same amount, but get more data, right? So in the scenario of having like a low ticket offer, like the case study that I had, I spent $250 in the first day and had 11 sales. I spent, you know, close to $900 the next day and had, I don't know how many sales, but, you know, however many sales, right? But like to give you, you know, comparison, like I was able to get a lot of data fast, right? I quite like low ticket offers because of that. All right, so we've got 10 ads that fit the bill. So now I want to move into prove phase. And what this means is spend more money. Spend more money on potential winning ads to see if they maintain performance. Now, naturally, we're going to see performance probably dwindle, right? Or not dwindle, but it's going to decrease, right? We're not probably going to maintain the same CPA, the same ROAS as what we were when we were in the initial testing phase, naturally, because now we're spending more money. And for me, how I usually go about that is usually 10 to 20x the initial budget of that ad. So if we take these 10 ads, let's just move this to something a little bit more affordable. Let's say 3 ads fit the bill, right? That's more realistic anyway. 3 ads fit the bill. Now, they were spending, let's say, $20 per day in the initial campaign, okay? Well, now I'm going to spend between $200 or $400 per day on each of the 3 ads. Now, if you don't have that budget, that's fine. You just work out what you can afford to spend, right? It could be 5x. So it doesn't have to be 10x. You could be, you know, 5 or 10 or 20x. And 5x would be what? $100, right? If it was a $20 budget. $100 to $200 to $400 a day on each of the 3 ads. So what I do is I duplicate into a new ad set. I'd use the existing post ID of that potential winning ad. So in this scenario, we would have 3 new ad sets. Each ad set or each potential winning ad in its own ad set. So we would have 3 new ad sets. And these would be at, what do we say? How do I do an at? I can't, my keyboard's back to front. So we've got 3 new ad sets, and this is at, let's say, I don't know, $200 a day, right? Equals $600 a day in additional spend, right? Because we've got these 3 new ad sets. This is one way of doing it, by the way. It's not always the way I do it. You saw in the case study, I nuked. That's a different strategy that I spend more time on inside Ad Profits. But the process is there, right? So then what we do is once we've proved that these ads are, you know, decent, let's say all 3 ads maintain. All 3 ads maintain performance, continue to get sales consistently within target CPA and good ROAS. Okay? So at this point, what I want to do is I want to start moving these into scaling, right? And for me, we go into scale phase. Again, there's multiple ways to do this. We could do, scale it. You could do Nuke for one. You could do a big budget CBO. What I like to do is usually a bigger budget CBO. So big budget CBO. And usually that could be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on budget per day. And I also like to bring in manual bids, right? So manual bids, and again, that could be bid cap, that could be cost per result. I personally prefer bid cap, but right now I'm seeing really good results with cost per result, okay? So I'm not going to go into depth on like what I bid. Again, I want to leave stuff, I'm not going to give the whole game away, but the manual bids are completely dependent on you, whether you do 1x, whether you do 2x, 3x, whatever you want to do, right? There's ways to sort of, there's no wrong way for one, but there's ways that we do it where, we can, for me now, like the cost per result ones I'm doing are on fire. They're doing very, very well. And they start at $1,000. Now, how else you can scale this is by surfing, right? So let's say you get your scaling CBO up and it's $1,000 a day. Well, a few hours into the day, you've got a ton of, conversions. They're within KPI, they're within target CPA, good ROAS. You can add 20% increase, right, to the budget. And then later on in the day, a few hours later, performance is consistently continuing. Then again, add another 20% and continue to do that throughout the day. I would probably say 3 to 4 times a day max. You can go from $1,000 a day to touching $2,000 a day on that same campaign within the same day. I don't see as much performance now by doing doubles because I used to double the budget when I was surfing, and I see that can sometimes have more of a negative effect than positive. So it kind of wrecks a campaign, right? So for me, 20% increases seem to have more stability, and so I stick with that. And then at the end of the day, if the last budget increase, the performance dropped, I'll take it back to the $1,000 a day. However, if performance continued throughout, I leave it where it is. So I start the next day at where I left off the previous day. So like in this scenario, it might be, 20%, $1,200, $1,440, whatever, right? $1,800 we get to. And then I leave it there. So then the next day we start at $1,800. And maybe, again, we get off to a great start. So then we 20% increase. And again, we start surfing throughout the day. And this is how you really build up a budget quick, right? Again, you could do what everyone says, add 20% every 3 days, every 7 days. That's fine. But as an affiliate and on a hot offer, we have to try and milk that cash cow, right? Before everyone jumps on it. If it's not a private offer, if it's a public offer, it's only a matter of time before people find your ad, start swiping. So like we need to maximize that, which is why when you see me, you saw in the case study, it's not just one scaling campaign. I'm running multiple scaling campaigns. I'm trying to go from, spending 2K a day to 5K a day to 10K a day to 15K a day and so forth, right? As quick as I can without damaging performance too much, right? I know performance is going to suffer in bits and certain campaigns are going to fade and drop and fatigue, but I'm trying to squeeze as much juice out of it as I can. So again, I mentioned this before, I'm quite chaotic when it comes to scaling. I'm quite chaotic, full stop. And so that's what suits me, right? Okay, so we're over an hour in. I'm going to end it there. Hopefully there's been some value in this. I hope anyway, not just me whittering on. I feel like there's value there. Again, I know I haven't gone into too much depth about everything, but that would be unfair to the people that pay me, right? My students inside Ad Profits and also my one-to-one clients. Which then brings me to this. If you are interested in scaling campaigns, no matter whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, and you really want support, community, course content, obviously from someone in the trenches, which is, I think, ultimately very important. This isn't stuff that I was doing 5, 6, 7 years ago. This is like my feet are in the trenches. My finger is on the pulse. I am in ad accounts every single day, testing, optimizing, and scaling offers. So if you want to learn, or if you want the support or guidance from someone in the trenches, this would be a great time. Below you can see there's my Instagram that you can check out. You can send me a message. I'll get back to you. We can have a chat. We can schedule a call if you want to learn more. If you're just happy getting information in messages, that's fine as well. You are going to talk to a human, by the way. It's not a chat bot. And then if you're maybe a little bit more advanced and you're looking to scale into high 4, 5-figure days, and you want that one-on-one support, that private support without, group calls and community eyeballs looking at you, then there's a link below where you can schedule a call with me or my main man, Alfred, and we'll have a chat and see if the one-to-one is an option for you instead. So 2 really good options that deliver a lot of value, and I'm really spending a lot more time on growing and obviously helping as many affiliates scale their businesses. So Thomas signing out, and hopefully catch you soon.